Carrie Twigg!
Bro.
You're back in D.C.
Back in D.C. I'm here so
You're here. Just
much.
The residency. We said it's like Celine Dion. Carrie Twigg. D.C. residency.
Only I could sing. I know. I'm like minutes away from an apartment, apparently. Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm very well. I just woke up. You could probably tell by the bags under my eyes and
really
the coffee
early
that I'm drinking. Tell us about last night. I want to hear all about it.
So last night was the Kennedy Center Honors. I'm on one of the boards of the Kennedy Center for now. I get kicked off.
Yeah. Does Trump just fire you? Is he like, Gary?
Not with the AM motion.
Not with this.
And not personally.
He calls you up. You're no longer on the board.
No longer on the board. So there's a bunch of different boards of the Kennedy Center. One of them is two of them, I think, are presidentially appointed.
Yeah.
I'm on one of those boards. And the one that's like the big fancy board, you have a 6-year guaranteed term.
Oh, wow.
And then the one that I'm on, you serve at the pleasure of the president functionally.
Got it.
And so I don't know how long it'll take for them to get around to the arts. But the expectation is that
he may forget.
He might.
He probably just forget.
Yeah. But the expectation is that we'll get kicked off at some point, or they'll just appoint new people or whatever.
So you're holding a warm seat for Candace Owens is what we're saying.
100%.
Yeah. Candace is just waiting
in the wings.
Waiting to fill your spot.
Absolutely.
That's where they're going to put all of the black surrogates for Trump that did not get cabinet positions because none
into
of
the
them
arts.
did.
Yeah. You guys like dancing.
Exactly. You guys like tap dancing, right?
Go to the Kennedy
You're
Center.
going to take over Carrie Twigg's board spot.
I mean, honestly. So, yeah. So last night was the honors, which is a Lifetime Achievement Award that's given out to, artists at sort of who've had massive achievements.
Yeah.
And last night it went to Arturo Sandoval, who's a trumpeter, like a legendary trumpet player. Bonnie Raitt, who's obviously a legend. The Grateful Dead.
The Grateful Dead.
The Grateful Dead, yeah.
Okay.
Francis Ford Coppola.
Was John Mayer in the audience?
He was not in the audience, but he filmed a vignette.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Of course he did.
Yeah.
Did he put himself in the center of the frame too? Like on stage? No, I'm kidding. Sorry.
I mean,
No John Mayer slander.
I thought you were a John Mayer fan.
I am.
I am not a John Mayer fan.
We discussed this.
Yes, we did. Did we discuss it on the pod or just in our personal life? On the pod.
Yeah, for those that
besmirched John Mayer. Did I tell my story about why? Okay, cool. Won't go into it. And then we don't need to revisit it. And then the Apollo, which was the first organization to ever win. And it was interesting because you get this honoree, all the honorees, you get this honor. All the honorees sit in a box at the Kennedy Center with the president, the first lady, Kamala Harris, Doug. Kamala, by the way, without a doubt, got the most applause throughout the night.
God bless.
So we went to a reception at the White House first.
Nice.
The room lost its mind when she came in.
Yeah.
And then she got a standing ovation from everyone in the Kennedy Center.
Beautiful.
But so they're sitting, they have their rainbow sort of medallions on, Cuban link medallion vibe happening.
So for the kids watching at home, it's the meme of Obama giving the medallion to himself. Do you know that meme?
Oh, no. I don't remember that.
There's this meme. It's great. But it's Obama. It's photoshopped, of course, but he's giving the Kennedy Center honor to himself.
Oh, so he should.
Yeah. As he should.
The one I always think about is the Ellen DeGeneres who's just hysterically crying.
Yes.
Cannot keep it together at all. Good for her. And then all these people honor them and perform their songs and their music on stage. And it's really cool and interesting and beautiful. And the people, Dun and Dusted, who's the production company that runs it, nails it.
Shout out to Kristen Wong.
The
one and only.
And so it's just a great night. It's a great night, art night in DC, of which there's not a ton of art nights around here. I will say that they could really work on the party vibe. I'm desperate for there to be a good party in DC.
This is what you and I have already started to bring to DC because we did it with the Correspondents dinner.
I know.
Yeah.
We're going to do what? All right. So what happens? The Correspondent, I guess we can address it later in the spring. But Trump never does it, right?
Trump never does it, but I wonder if now that he has like his little squad, I wonder if things are different now. Now that he has a cadre of comedians in particular, I wonder if things are different. The interesting thing I was realizing too is I felt like the first Trump presidency, he was really going it alone. Like you talked about it. Like he had no celebrities. He had
no support in the culture.
No support in the culture. Also, he didn't think he could win either. Like he was not expecting to win.
Didn't know where the bathroom. Like was just like, what am I doing here?
He was just people speculated that he wanted to lose and he was going to just use this to make money. This go around, he built a little bit of a caravan, right? He's got
such a good point.
He's got like, I can imagine the Correspondents dinner this year just being a who's who of every fucking podcaster, comedian.
Oh my God, you're right.
The Rogan, the Manosphere. Like that's what Correspondents dinner weekend will be. So therefore, I will get the fuck out of DC. No, I'm kidding.
You're right.
Like, do you want to be in the city when all of those motherfuckers descend on Washington, you know?
Oh, man.
Yeah. I mean, if I were them, I would be planning this,
absolutely.
Right now,
I mean, they'll have a great time. That sounds
time.
Amazing for them.
For them.
Yeah. Wow.
It'll be like the Dana White after party. You know?
Of course. UFC brought to you by...
It will be, they'll bring back, I'm sure Pornhub will have an after party.
Did that happen in the past?
Nope. But Playboy did one.
When?
I think it was the last year of Obama, when everyone and their mom wanted to have a Correspondents dinner party.
Yeah.
Playboy had one at one of like the embassies.
I've been to a few fun Playboy parties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they're still around, but I have a feeling.
Well, now's the time to come back.
OnlyFans.
Respectability's over.
Just
OnlyFans should totally have a party. Why not?
Everyone will be back. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. But we've not talked a lot about culture. One of the things Twigg and I promised ourselves, we're like, look, once the election ends, we can like start talking more about our day jobs, which is what we do. People don't realize.
We're not full-time podcasters.
We're not full-time, or we're not full-time like political hacks either.
True.
In a way, our podcast was us returning to form.
Yeah.
You know? But I'm struck by how Trump won. Everyone stopped paying attention to politics, and culture's weirdly flourishing. We had the biggest box office weekend. Like in movie history.
Yeah. Second
to Avengers Endgame. Yeah.
But
I don't know.
I think that's because people want something to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that sort of trend was already sort of happening pre-Trump, right? If you think about last year in Barbenheimer, think about some of these eventized things that are actually made to be seen on screens that people want to go and be a part of, live experiences. They want to go do stuff, you know? But so often the kind of obsession with streaming has put so much of the best IP, so many of the best ideas and the best scripts onto television.
Yep.
And so they just haven't been going to theaters, right? And the way that the model works, for folks who don't know, is, so like I have a production company, you have a production company. We come up with an idea of a show that we want to make or a movie we want to make. And then you go and you essentially, before you make it, you shop it out. You can raise the money to actually produce the thing. And the streaming model, Netflix basically broke the entertainment industry by saying, Carrie, you know, if you take this to a studio, they'll give you $3 million, but then you'll get some cash on the back end if it does well. Netflix, like, we'll give you $6 million up front, but buy out your back end.
Yep.
No more. That's all the cash you'll get. And the vast majority of creators, actors, everybody was like, 100% give me the cash.
Yep.
Because you guarantee that you are richly compensated,
You're paid,
whether it does well or not.
Yeah.
Which,
in an environment in Hollywood where most things prior to that point that would get made, people wouldn't see. Like, think about how many pilots get shot that no one ever sees, right?
So it de-risked the entire enterprise.
Yeah.
What it also did, though, was completely lowered the incentive to make something amazing. I mean, people want to make things amazing because it's their art, it's their idea, it's their story, whatever. But I think we see a lot of things that are not super great because there's no
real
incentive for performance.
Interesting.
Right? So
because you don't own it.
Because you don't own it anymore.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I think has led to so many things that people would gather to see together in person, but it's going to streaming. It's in your house. You can't go to a theater and watch it. And so that just really undermined all the theatrical. And I think, but so many people, the part of entertainment that's growing the most outside of gaming, which is like is this whole massive juggernaut, is live in-person experiences. Yeah. And so I'm not terribly surprised that the box office did well. If you put stuff into theaters that people actually want to go see and that feel like they're made to be watched in a crowd, in a theater, on a big screen, people will go.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you're making things that feel like TV shows, why am I watching this in a theater?
Yeah. Yeah. Biggest box office. So for those who are not at the box office or go to movies, I do.
I love going to the movie theater.
Moana 2, Wicked, and Gladiator 2.
Yeah.
Just smashing. We've seen Gladiator 2 and Wicked. We've not seen Moana 2 yet.
Are you talking about we, or are you talking about we as the Jenkinses? I mean, I know
we
I'm
as
in
the
family,
Jenkinses.
but
We as the Jenkinses, not as Twigg and Jenkins. I don't know what you've seen. What have
I've
you
seen both. I've same spread.
Okay.
Moana was supposed to be a TV show, and then when Bob Iger came back to Disney, he had them turn it into a film.
Brilliant.
Which was
by the way,
obviously super smart.
By the way, Bob, great work.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. Turns out. But Lin-Manuel Miranda did not do the tunes, so I've heard that is noticeable.
Part of the reason why I didn't.
Love
our
it.
kids are not. No, we didn't see it yet.
Oh, you didn't see it? Yeah.
Not as interested.
Yeah.
Not as interested.
Did you like Gladiator?
Gladiator was great. Gladiator felt like cosplay. It felt so, it was just the same movie as the first movie. So, and I don't think that, I love Paul Mescal, but he's not.
Love Paul Mescal.
He's not.
Shocking.
Yeah, he's a good looking man. He's just not Russell Crowe though.
Oh, I don't.
No? You disagree.
Oh, give me an Irish.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
An Irish over an Australian every time, A. But then B, an Irishman. Sorry, I've completely lost my train of thought.
That's what happens when we bring up handsome men on the podcast.
I know. I just lose all sense of logic. But here's the thing. Ridley Scott, to me, as a director, who's the director of Gladiator, director of the first one, the man's all over the shop. Like, in Gladiator 2, there were so many scenes that were amazing.
Yeah.
You're like, this is extraordinary filmmaking.
Yeah.
And then other scenes that you were just like, what is this? What is this? Why is this happening? Who let this happen?
Yeah, I mean, he's 90 years old. Right?
Yeah.
And am I making that up?
If he's not fully there, he's
like late 80s.
He's knocking on the door. Yeah.
God bless Ridley Scott. No, I liked it. I mean, it was so much like a Denzel.
Denzel was so campy and brilliant.
So campy, so good. Knew from the very beginning of the film, spoiler, that he was a bad guy. Because like, why else would he take this role? So
of course.
The entire time, the whole turn, I'm like, when is it going to happen? I'm sure it's going to happen, but
yeah, he was so good. I loved Denzel.
He was great. What'd you think of Wicked? Look at us doing a movie
culture.
pod.
Wait, someone told me recently that there's a study that came out that the average American man, or the typical, I don't know, some massive percentage of American men think about the Roman Empire at least once a week.
Yeah, this is a whole meme.
Was it?
Yeah, I don't know where it came from, but I am not one of those men, so it didn't really hit
all I
for
could
me.
think about while watching Gladiator.
I mean, I guess it makes, look, Do I think about Gladiator as a film a lot? Yes, I do. So if that's what they mean, if
Really?
if we're gonna say that counts, then yeah, I think about Gladiator, the original Gladiator, all of the time.
In what
Yeah.
context? You're just like walking around screaming in your head. Are you not entertained?
I think I really do think people forget it won Best Picture. It won like 11 Academy Awards.
Sure.
I think that, and it's also just a fucking banger.
It is.
It is
phenomenal
a
film.
straight up banger of a film. But no, I think I remember when I was when did the movie come out? Because I'm going to age myself. Middle school, maybe?
Uh-huh. It's a formative years for your masculinity.
I wrote a paper about Gladiator.
What was the thesis?
Well, for the listeners at home, I am atheist. I don't know what I am. Pagan?
Pagan?
Maybe not pagan.
Are you familiar with that definition?
My daughter is in the children's chorus of Washington, D.C., and they did a We Wish You a Merry Christmas. And in beautiful Washington, D.C. fashion, they did We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Happy Kwanzaa. We wish you a Happy Hanukkah. But they keep going. We wish you a Happy Solstice. We wish you. They just kept going. And I was like,
which one resonated with you?
I guess a Happy Solstice. Is
so
that what's for pagans? Is that what pagans celebrate? No. So there's a part in Gladiator where Maximus, the general, he has these little totems.
Yes.
That he prays to, and he keeps them in his pocket. And the totems are his family members.
Right.
Essentially, and in those days, that is the way people practice their faith. You'd pray to your dead ancestors, and you literally kept your dead ancestors like on you. And then when you prayed to, who you came from, but also people that you've lost. And so Maximus would pray to his children, who Commodus had murdered, and his wife, who Commodus had raped. So like it was this. So Maximus would like be in the floor of the Colosseum in the prison, and he put the little totems up, and he like prayed to them. It's very beautiful. But for someone who didn't have religion in their life, I was like, you know what? That's my jam.
Just little totems to your dead ancestors.
No, maybe not the totems. But I'm like, I actually like that form of faith.
Yeah, sure.
It's a really practical form of faith, which is I'm not going to pray to a God. God, by the way, this is going to offend all of our religious listeners, but I'm not going to pray to, a guy in a beard on a mountain overlooking me and watching me while I sleep, because that's super creepy.
Sky Daddy? You're not a big fan of a Sky Daddy?
Not a fan of a Sky Daddy. I feel like it's Big Brother, and you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I feel like Sky Daddy should fix some stuff. If Sky Daddy is really Sky Daddy, you know what I mean? Like get in there and, I don't know, intervene some shape or form. But like my grandfather who passed, and thinking about him and thinking about his life and what he did for me to be who I am. Look at us talking about Gladiator for 25 minutes. So yeah. So yes, I do think about the Roman Empire all of the time.
Turns out you do. You really do.
Anyway, did you watch the Obama speech?
No.
By the way.
No. Heard about it.
What did you hear about it?
That it happened. It was what? Okay, so the Obama Foundation holds their annual summit every year called the Democracy Forum.
It's the third annual.
And he talked, Barack Obama. I heard that he gave a great speech, as he is prone to do, as he is wont to do. And really succinctly, to the person who was telling me about it, kind of talked about what went wrong, or why we're in the tall grasses, so to speak.
Yeah,
we've lost our way. Is that true?
It was weird. Break
it down for me. What happened?
Well, because you know how much we love Obama. I love Barack Obama.
Yeah, me too.
It just felt so detached. Remember how we were talking about
Interesting.
Remember how we were talking about the Kamala staff that came on? They're just kind of like, we don't know what happened.
Yeah.
And I felt like there was a little bit of, it was very professorial, which again, President Obama
has an inclination towards.
Is known to do. He was a former law school professor, so very, very real professor vibes. No, I mean, it's sort of what you and I have been talking about, which is this is what happens when many different people who've been marginalized for the whole history of our country have a voice. It gets messy.
Yeah.
And I think the speech was a call for how do we find space for everyone? Yeah. And there was one interesting note he gave, which was when he won his state Senate seat in Illinois, it was 2005.
Mm-hmm.
There was one black U.S. senator.
Right.
One. And there were 12 female senators. Like, that is not that long ago. That is less than 20 years ago.
Right.
And so when we talk about, like, how was it that Congress was able to break bread and get things done and communicate and reach across the aisle, it's because
all the same dudes.
Less than 20 years ago, it was all white dudes.
Yeah.
Who all went to the same schools, you know, but just like went back to their hometowns and ran for office.
Yeah.
So when we talk about just this great unmooring or great breaking apart or separating, it's like things get messy. Things will get messy. I worry, though, it felt like an exercise in, I mean, I'm sure they did not assume that Donald Trump was going to win again.
The Democracy Forum.
Yeah.
Like the planners just sort of were making an assumption that Kamala Harris would be the president-elect.
Actually, I don't know. I shouldn't assume. But it felt, the urgency for me felt lacking, you know? I think, but that is the Barack Obama way to remind us that that history is long.
And the foundation is nonpartisan, theoretically, right? And isn't really, it's not a political action entity.
Yeah.
Interesting. Did he say anything? Did he offer any reflections about sort of what he thinks we should do next? Or?
Yeah. I mean, this is the other part about it is it's kind of directed at the people that would go to a democracy forum, you know? But I don't know that is what's ailing. I don't know that the challenge is that, you know, the people that are at the democracy forum are not empathetic enough towards our neighbors.
Right,
you know?
Right.
It's not to channel blue check marks on Twitter, but my guess is they did not like this speech because it's very much like we have to figure out a way to hug our neighbors.
Right.
You know, and which is an argument that I don't disagree with, but an argument that in this moment when Donald Trump wants to end birthright citizenship.
Yeah. It's like you're not wrong.
You're not wrong,
but like I don't know what to do with that exactly.
Exactly. It's like, bro, can you maybe direct this speech at like a few specific people that might need to hear this? Right? It's like we're all the American people are not the ones that need to hear this.
Right.
You know, it's just specific people.
But are they going to listen to Barack Obama? Like, probably not. So.
No, that's what I mean to say is like, it's almost, not to keep using sports metaphors, but it's like we just lost. We just got our asses kicked. And after the game is over, you're talking to your team. And instead of diagnosing like how our ideas can win, you're sort of just telling the team, like, you just gotta hug that other team. You just gotta, you gotta link arms, you know?
As
if you're
they
the Kansas
want
City Chiefs, you
anything
just
to
gotta
do with
link
us.
arms. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Like, as if they want anything to do with us ever.
Right. So in the marketplace of ideas, it just doesn't feel like that's going to motivate or move anyone in this moment. And also in the marketplace of ideas, like that idea that we should just hug the other side, that didn't work, bro. Because the other side ran on fear-mongering, scapegoating. That shit worked.
Worked really well.
That shit worked.
This is one of my pet peeves of the cycle, has been like this really round condemning of identity politics on the left. And it's like, Donald Trump used identity politics to great effect, and he won.
100%.
So
say that louder for the people in the back.
So identity politics isn't why we lost. Our kind of clumsy identity politics is why we lost. Is one of the reasons why we lost, right?
100%.
I don't think we've done it well, but I don't think it means. I think to try and pretend as though politics can in any way be separate from identity, is absolutely ludicrous. You know,
their identity politics was better than ours.
Yeah, of course
they
it was.
learned from us.
Yes,
quite candidly. I saw this awful meme about Black Lives Matter on my Facebook feed, and
You're gonna say where it came from?
No, I'm not gonna say where it came from. It may or may not have been a family member, and my thought of it was, you know, what really happened was Trump saw Black Lives Matter and was like, "White Lives Matter, baby.
Absolutely,
let's go." Let's do it. You know, like you're right. They did this better than us.
Yeah. But even, listen, Barack Obama was the champion of a pluralist nation in 2008. And it was all very much about a post-racial America, if we can all cast our memory back that far. And it was the great melting pot theory. And it was the great, like, we can all get along. We're so much closer than you think. There's so much more that unites us than divides us. And that birthed a Tea Party.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not as though we've never tried racial reconciliation.
Yeah.
Right? It's just that we're the only people who have ever tried racial reconciliation. And now there's actually a really fascinating version and like contorted version of racial reconciliation that's coming out of Trump that is very much just reorienting race on a hierarchy with class.
Yeah.
Being subordinate to class, right? But it's all still about identity, and it's all still so tied up in, like, if you get to protect blackness, we 100% get to protect whiteness, as you said.
Yeah, and it became I think it put folks like Trump, people who were always sort of, you know, flirting or love the idea of white supremacy. It gave, and like Fox News as an example, where it created this dynamic where white people were the ones that had grievance politics, right?
Oh, isn't that amazing?
Like the flip of grievance politics, where it was the white people who were like, oh, there's so many black people in Cheerios commercials.
I know, but it's all those, it's all those studies where like, people dramatically overestimate how many black people there are in America, how many trans people there are, how many, you know, it's just like people are like half the country. And it's like, baby, like 13%, like 1%, you know, it is this amazing thing.
Should
and so
we
much
blame?
Of that's,
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say so much of that's just advertising.
I was just going to say, should we blame Culture House? It's your fault.
Should we blame Carrie Twigg and her company?
Let's blame
for making shows that have black people in them. Yeah.
Did we have too many shows with black people in it as fully formed three-dimensional humans with a rich history and a context?
Absolutely.
Should we blame Black Panther? Black Panther. Let's blame Black Panther. If it was not for Black Panther, Donald Trump would never have been elected. You know, it's like, I don't want to see 3-dimensional black people on my screens.
Absolutely not.
This is a bridge too far.
Absolutely not. Bring back Cops. Season 1.
Get this shit off my screen. I only want black people as side characters and villains.
You know, occasional hottie.
Yeah. No. Like, it's also funny too. The Atlantic wrote this piece about how mainstream media has been just, again, sort of destroyed this cycle by right-wing media and like the manosphere and everything you and I have been talking about.
Yeah.
And one of the jokes that we had was like, folks like Rogan, all of them do it. Rogan, Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, this whole, you know, infrastructure, all they do is rail on mainstream media. Mainstream media.
And they are the mainstream.
They are the fucking mainstream media.
Yeah.
So they just can't say that anymore. You
well,
know?
watch them.
I mean, they will still say it.
Watch.
And even mainstream media, Fox News is the most popular cable news channel.
Yeah.
So what do they, I guess that's the question. What do they mean when they say that? Do they mean Black Panther? Is that what they mean?
Well, I think there's always been this perception, accurately, that Hollywood is run by liberals, that the news media is run by liberals, which is true in many respects, right?
Right.
You have it from a staff kind of operator perspective. That has been true. And yet it's not as though their products were liberal products.
Right.
Right. Like Top Gun is not a conservative or is not a liberal movie.
No.
Right. Some of the television shows, TV and film, like so many American cultural products are not liberal products, even if they were made, paid for, greenlit by people who themselves vote for Democrats and give money to Democrats.
Sure.
Like the entertainment, especially in entertainment, but also sort of in news, like that leadership is very much like, we don't shape society. That is not what we are trying to do. That is not our responsibility. Ted Sarandos and the Dave Chappelle kind of controversy. He was just like, TV does not make society. Like that is not something that I'm willing to take any responsibility for whatsoever. And so even if he gave money to Barack Obama and hosted fundraisers for him, like they don't mix.
Yeah.
They don't mix their personal and their professional in that way. And so but that hasn't stopped the right and sort of the popular consciousness of being like, this is all liberal and it's all liberal biased. And it's not actually very true.
It is like, it's all liberal, like mainstream media. According to those guys, I think what they mean to say is like the New York Times, the Washington Post.
But for a long time, it was like ABC, NBC,
yes,
you know, CBS.
Yes, good point.
None of that's true. Like that was what mainstream media was up until a few years ago.
Sure. And
then it sort of became Ted Turner and the invention of CNN and sort of the Zucker era of CNN becoming slightly, and I think in just the Obama era, had more space to be liberal. Like it seemed less controversial, and then it sort of perpetuated this idea that there was this massive left-wing conspiracy.
I think Twitter. I do think we've not really talked a lot about Elon Musk. I realize we put all of our ire on JD Vance. God bless JD Vance, our vice president elect.
Brad doesn't believe in God, so you can imagine how heartfelt that was.
I believe that we're all connected, you know, like
I don't know if you and I have ever had this conversation.
I think that I think we're all connected through
digging deeper.
Through you know, our atoms, and you know, we die, we become the earth, and you know. But no, I don't believe in a big man in the sky.
Come to LA, man. You're ready. You're ready for the LA spirituality journey.
Elon Musk bought Twitter. I think the place where the left really, truly organized and had an outsized voice was Twitter.
Yeah, you're right.
And I think that journalists really took a lot of their cues both culturally
Such an important point.
and news-wise from Twitter. It became and that's the reason why Elon Musk bought it. And that's the reason, and we've also talked about the very positive and very negative effects of the Twitter effect, right? Especially as it relates to political organizing, where you assume because you have lots of likes, you assume because you have lots of Twitter followers that you can run for office. CC Andrew Yang, right? Like there are people who are just like, oh, I'm popular on Twitter.
Yeah.
Like, I can run for office.
I'm going to be president.
It's like, nah, bro. Twitter's not real life. But Twitter did drive news stories and coverage and like what people talked about, I guess. And so, but that's been aped too. Like that is now become right wing as well, which is fascinating. So like, where are the spaces where the left?
They've cleaned our clock.
They've cleaned our clock in everything.
And it's been the result of a multi-decade strategy, right?
Yeah.
Like it's what they did with drive time radio.
Yeah.
Like AM radio and conservative radio just became this massive juggernaut in way that they organized people from a culture standpoint. And now they've essentially done the exact same thing in the digital space. And the left has continued to buy into that same, and functionally the myth that has been perpetuated by the right, which is that media is a liberal thing and we don't need to invest in it and we don't need to worry about it because Tom Katzenmeier or Bob Iger or whoever is giving money to Democrats and supporting Barack Obama. We don't need to invest in media. And that's absolutely not been true. And this is they've been building and investing in this stuff for so long. I mean, this was Andrew Breitbart's like main contribution to the conservative movement, right? Was connecting the dots between media, culture, and politics. And we have completely neglected any meaningful infrastructure build around culture. We've done really interesting stuff around news and like disinformation, and there's been a lot of funding in that space and like these short form social explainers or whatever. But that's not how it works. Like that's not how culture works. It's not where people build a community. It's not where like short form explainer. You can't build a community around short form explainers, around a now this, around a news source,
or even around like full-length feature documentary films. There's a whole ecosystem that the left really does dominate, right? Which are beautifully shot, award-winning, issue-driven documentary films.
That no one watches.
We've been doing this for decades and decades and decades. Ford Foundation and others have been investing in this kind of storytelling.
And like, bless them. It's great.
It's so important. I mean, again, by the way, we love you guys because sometimes I make some of those stuff. I'm not saying that those things are bad, but what I am saying is that weirdly is not culture. Yeah. Right? Like it's beautiful. It's art. It's art. Yeah. But no one is watching those films, and
it's not pop culture.
It's not pop culture.
It's like
good
high
point.
Culture. It sort of occupies the space between archive, art, journalism, reportage. Yeah. You know, it's consciousness building.
Sure.
I talk always about whenever I'm coming up with a project, I put it on a spectrum of consciousness raising or coalition building. It's like, is this a project that's going to help people who are affected and who are already interested understand more deeply an issue or what's happened to them or what's happening around them? And that's a consciousness building project. And then there's projects that are coalition building, which is how do I welcome new people into this concept? How do I bring new people into this conversation and expand who is participating in that conversation? The left documentaries are really, really good at consciousness raising, but they are for people who are already paying attention. There are for people who are already engaged, who already have a basic understanding or an openness to understanding more around a particular topic. We do not do a very good job of making projects that expand coalitions, that actually bring people and animate people into a conversation in a way that we're watching in a masterful way. The right do, right? Theo Vaughn, these guys, Joe Rogan, they're making these entertainment products that are bringing people in and moving them up a ladder of like right-wing engagement. Yeah. It's extraordinary.
I mean, you should have given this Barack Obama speech because I think no, I love Barack Obama. No, you're right. That's totally right. it's also right that what's old is new again, that I remember being young, relatively young, and Air America launching. Do you remember Air America, which was
Yeah, I do.
the left's answer to the right-wing radio? Because, you know, there was no kids. Let's go back in the Wayback Machine. Before the internet, the only way you could hear things was on radio. And the right wing dominated talk radio.
Yeah. It's like podcasts.
It's like
not
podcasts.
on demand.
But it's in your car.
In
the computer. And there are radio stations. And this guy, Rush Limbaugh, among others, dominated. And guess what? Surprise, surprise. Guess what the vast majority of his content was? Blaming black and brown people.
For everything.
All of the world's problems. You know, like none of this shit is new.
Yeah.
Blaming immigrants, blaming black people, the idea of welfare queens, the idea of, you know, black people just sitting around not doing anything. Like all of this stuff is not new. And so the left tried to create something called Air America, and Rachel Maddow. God bless Rachel Maddow.
That's how she got her start.
That's how she got her start. Rachel Maddow. Air America. And then they had all of these like left-wing celebrities at the time. So it was like Al Franken.
That's right.
Rob Reiner. Some of these guys are still blue check marks to this day, by the way. God bless them. Was Sarah Silverman? I'm looking at Boyle. Was Sarah Silverman on Air America? Mark Maron. That's how Mark Maron got his start, right?
Let's make Air America for today.
Well, it's funny because I do think
what
that
happened to it?
All of the people who are now sort of like the left's cultural icons all failed with Air America. Like Rachel Maddow. I mean, God bless Rachel Maddow.
She's obviously very successful.
What
do you mean failed?
No, I mean
Air America
failing disastrously because no one wanted to listen to that shit for some reason, which is something we should unpack. But over time, they all found their voice. Like Mark Maron was, speaking of podcasting, like Mark Maron like created the long form podcast, you know?
But this is something that's also really another one of my pet peeves, which is the right does such a good job of allowing people to be iterative.
Yeah.
Usually things don't work the first time you try them.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure that they built their version of Air America. It didn't work. They took what did work and then they rebuilt a new version of it after the first one failed.
Yeah.
And like consistently on the left, we try something. It doesn't work immediately or the first time and then it never gets rebuilt.
Yeah. It's a really good point. Yeah. I mean,
which is such a corporate mentality. It's such a business mentality to be like, of course things aren't going to work the first time. So you try, you fail, you iterate, you innovate, you rebuild, you try, you fail, you iterate, you innovate. Like all these business bros will tell you about, there's 1,000 books and podcasts about this very idea of like failure is key to business success, and the right really internalizes that and implements that within their political infrastructure in a way that it doesn't seem like we do.
The thing that I felt like I loved our last pod. We got lots of compliments, by the way, of your breakdown of the Kamala Harris surrogate program. I got lots of texts. Also, because I think it's also our ecosystem and our. I ran to someone on the street yesterday in Eastern Market, and they came up to me. It's a friend of Marina's, and they're just like, I've been listening to you guys. You guys are so great. So God bless you, Carrie Twigg. No, but the piece that I think everyone agreed with was that, and God bless you and I for doing very long podcasts, not a lot of people do. The right just goes deeper.
Yeah.
They go 4 levels deeper.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what it is, because their people just love to hear themselves talk, maybe.
Well,
and it's not as transactional.
We don't.
We don't love to hear ourselves talk at all.
We never once been said.
Never.
We've never once said it's better when there's no guest.
That's never been uttered. That's never been texted numerous times. Just love it when we just talk for hours and hours. And because on the culture piece, we still have The Daily Show. we still have, for all intents and purposes, Saturday Night Live, which is still the sort of water cooler weekly programming with regards to culture and news. We still have the late night shows, right? All of them, other than Jimmy Fallon, God bless Jimmy Fallon, but all of them almost every week are doing monologues, political monologues. But it's very entertainment-y with a capital E. It's not like community building. People go to get their laughs and giggles.
Yeah.
You know? And then they move on. People will sit with Joe Rogan for 3 fucking hours.
Totally.
And that's just a different kind of engagement.
So, are you still watching, Joe?
I've not watched him in a bit. I think I needed to take a break from all of it because, you know, me, I was watching so much of it.
Yeah.
I think the Trump interview broke me. I think I was just like, all right, I gotta take a break. But I'll go back to it at some point.
Yeah, I was having a drink with somebody and we were talking about you in the pod, and he was like, I would have known Brad watched Joe Rogan without him ever saying it.
I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
No, I think it was, I mean, he watched Rogan too,
Okay.
not like religiously, but I mean,
well, people don't realize, like, I mostly watch sports media. I all day, every day, all day yesterday, I just watched 7 hours of Red Zone NFL. Like, I'm a dude. I'm a bro. I am a bro.
You're such a bro.
I'm such a fucking bro. I am. So yeah, I like, you know,
broy shit.
I like broy shit. I like broy shit, man.
I'm a bro and I
There's
act like one too.
There's nothing wrong with being a bro.
No, we're here to defend your honor.
We need, much like the right took cues from us and built their version of White Lives Matter, and they called it MAGA.
Honestly,
it's now time for the left to learn a thing or two about the right. And Boyle brought up Mark Maron, which is such a great point. Like, Mark Maron actually showed everyone how to do this long form interview podcast shit. Barack Obama went
on Mark Maron. Yeah.
Went in his garage. Where the hell's Mark Maron been?
He's
all right,
like doing dramatic acting.
It's Mark Maron's fault. You know what? It's not Black Panther.
Everything's Mark Maron's fault.
Mark Maron became a movie star, turned his back on the culture.
It's actually true. I haven't heard from him for a long time.
It's been a minute. So we're going to do DNC Chair interviews, Twig, not to segue.
Hard. That was a hard pivot, but I'm here for it. We are.
We've got a big one coming up tomorrow in studio.
Which is going to be so fun.
What do we hope to get out of them?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that, actually. And, you know, I think I've really been to the basic theme of this episode. Like, this podcast has brought me back into politics in a way that I haven't been for years and years and years. And I think my strong feelings about what happened in November have animated me more to being helpful in a way that I have very much, like, post 2016. I was like, listen, I tried. I tried before this thing went off the rails to make my little contribution, do my little thing to try and make America great again. And now y'all are on your own. Like, I tried, you know.
I think I felt the same way.
And
I think
sort of like,
and it was also kind of like, let the youths have their shot.
Yeah,
you know?
Shift change.
Yeah.
Like, I'm out. Tag me out. I'm out. Mom's gone. I'm in LA. I'm gonna learn how to surf.
Mama's gone. I gotta learn how to surf.
And now I sort of feel reanimated back into it. It's like I've almost taken like a decade off and sort of am now sort of back and wandering back in and dusting myself off, and
it's like an action movie.
And I feel right, but yeah.
You're being pulled back in.
It's The Godfather 3.
Yeah.
But I feel so much ambivalence. I feel really, really torn about what it will mean to be engaged in politics in this way at this time. And
Yeah.
like, because I know how much work it takes, and I'm already working really hard. As we've discussed, it's like we both have other businesses. We're both making shows and making film and TV and like setting up a whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think I was having this conversation with a friend of mine, Charlotte, and she was like, so are you going to like move back to DC and take this seriously and I was like, no. She's like, are you sure? Like, shouldn't you? And I feel so resistant to that idea. I mean, I know that we talked about that if Kamala won, I'd probably come back and like it would all be fun and games and it would be chill and parties and blah. That sounds great. And now I'm just like, oh man, like this is going to be a lot of hard work. And so I feel a lot of stress, and yet the idea, the solutions that we need are cultural.
Yes.
And there are very few people in politics that have a ton of political fluency and expertise and cultural expertise.
Yeah.
Like there's just not a ton of us, right? Like we've not built that bench of talent.
No, there was the road, there was two paths that all the Obama people could take. One was tech.
Yes.
Silicon Valley.
A ton of cash.
Make all the money.
It's actually called cash. Cash or cachet.
Or power, political power. Those are the two roads. And creative was just not a road.
Not really.
That very few people took, unfortunately.
And yet the Obamas started to higher ground.
Yes.
The crooked guys started crooked.
Yes.
You started Funny or Die.
Yes. Well, I didn't start it,
You know
but yes.
what I mean. I started Culture House. Like there's a handful of us.
Yeah.
But there still needs to be exponentially more. So it's a very long-winded way of saying I've been thinking about in anticipation of these DNC chair interviews, the thing that I'm actually genuinely curious about, which I think I want to know what each candidate how they actually assess what happened.
Yeah.
In an honest way.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
What happened? What do you think? What do you think happened? It's not about placing blame or pointing fingers, but if you are purporting to come in and fix whatever's happening at the party, I want to know what problem you think you're solving.
If you're a doctor and you can't diagnose the actual fucking problem,
then what are we doing
then
here?
how can we entrust you to fix the fucking problem?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to the extent, like, do you understand culture?
Yeah.
And if you don't, who are you bringing in that does?
True.
Because you don't have to know everything. That's not what a leader doesn't have to know every single facet of every single thing, but you got to know that there is a problem and that someone out there has the solution. And so what are you doing to take seriously the very anemic cultural infrastructure of the left? And how are you going to address it in a way that the DNC uniquely can?
Yep. And how are you... I was seeing some chatter on Twitter. I guess the Young Dems had their national conference, and so a lot of the DNC chairs went over there. And I was just reading comments on my machine, as I do. And I was just noticing, like, a lot of people were like, well, how much are you prioritizing young people? Like, money? Like, the other thing is, like, we have to get out of these binaries of your commitment to a certain demographic is just money.
Right.
Like, what does that actually mean?
Right.
And what you're saying is so right. I want to know from all these guys, like, if you, let's not name names, but because I wanted to name a name, but I don't want to do that. But if you were a DNC chair candidate, you should be yourself practicing what you preach, right? So you yourself should be willing to go and sit down for an hour and a half long interview with Twigg and Jenkins.
Yeah.
Just using ourselves as an example.
Yeah.
Right? And like, if you don't get that, if you're like, oh, but I only want to do like 10 minutes, then it's like, oh, you're telling me everything I need to know.
Everything. And I will dog you on my podcast. Because I have a podcast.
You're telling me everything I need to know already, that you don't get it.
Yeah.
So anyway, just throwing that out there to the DNC chair folks that we've been talking to,
It's so true. And it's like, we want, like, that I think is one of the, another rant, another pet peeve of mine is like, why would you have an adversarial relationship to the people who are genuinely trying to platform you?
Yeah.
And if you can learn nothing about how the Trump campaign conducted their campaign, it's learn that they had a collaborative relationship with these people, and that's why it worked.
Yeah.
They were like, I get it. I get the format. I get the thing. I'm going to show up with a genuine like willingness to participate, as opposed to you're going to do this on my time, my rules, in my way, and you're only here to service my platform build.
Yeah.
And so we'll see. We'll see if
We'll see. I mean, I do think because there are a lot of people running and more people are coming out of the woodwork, some exciting ones are coming out of the woodwork.
Okay, so let's do a roll. It's
call.
All white guys so far, right?
All white guys. But you know what?
So
I think that's
my specialty.
I was going to say, we've got a white guy whisperer in Carrie Twigg.
People who have texted me, white guy whisperer, and I was like, this is the reputation I'm cultivating.
White guy whisperer, Carrie Twigg. You're going to really be able to, break the white guys down for me.
I mean,
because I confuse them sometimes.
Sure.
Like white people, they just all look the same.
Good. Good. Somebody here has to be racist.
Someone has to say it. Someone has to say it.
We're going to bring back that wine chart from the VP search. And put the DNC candidate.
White boys. It's white boy winter.
White boy winter. We're going to have some zesty whites, some floral whites, bold whites. Okay, so confirmed candidates. We have Ken Martin, the chair from Minnesota. Ben Wickler, the chair from Wisconsin.
Yep. Martin O'Malley, former governor of Maryland. David Hogg is thinking about it. David Hogg threw out some vibes on, I think it was CNN a couple of days ago. Rahm Emanuel.
Throwing out some vibes.
Rahm went on Ezra Klein. Guys, I really strongly encourage all the listeners of Twigg and Jenkins to listen to this Rahm Emanuel Ezra Klein interview. It is chef's kiss. It's so good.
He understood the assignment.
It's so good because he gets so fired up. You know how he is.
Yeah.
He's like me. He just gets really fired up, and he kept going, I'm sorry, Ezra. This is just therapy for me. This is therapy for me. He is so pissed. He's pissed at woke culture. It's fascinating.
I still haven't listened to it.
It's
I know you
fascinating.
texted it to me right when it came out, and you were like, listen to this immediately. I haven't done my homework.
It's a genuine article. If you want to understand how Clintonians think about the way the world works, listen to this Rahm Emanuel interview. It's great.
Deep.
It's great.
Is there anyone else?
Yeah, I think Rahm will probably. It sounded like Rahm was going to run.
Rahm. Who am I missing?
I'm surprised that there aren't any women. Very surprised there aren't any women running.
I know.
I feel like this would be a really great moment. Or are people really just saying, no, it needs to be a white man? You might be right.
I don't think people are saying that. I've not heard that chatter in the same way that we did around the VP candidate, because it was public facing.
Yeah.
Like the DNC chair is not, part of the problem is that the DNC chair is not public facing, right?
Although it should be. But yes.
It absolutely should.
Yes.
And that we've gotten away from, in my mind, the DNC chair should be like the Queen of England. So you have no real responsibility, but your job is to go around and throw some jewels and like whatever, kiss babies, cut ribbons, and just like really stir up fights, which I guess the royals don't do. But
and raise money.
Of course. But like the DNC chair should just be a full-time antagonist. Just be out humping the media circuit full time and just causing mayhem and trouble and picking fights with Republicans everywhere in the country.
That is a really interesting, because I don't think that those are the candidates.
It's not. It's not.
What you're describing is not what we're getting.
It's not what we have on the slate. And then you have a super strong ED who's actually building the infrastructure, running the organization, and doesn't have to worry about the media.
Yeah.
Like being a public figure is a full-time job.
Yeah.
And then the ED should be in charge of like actually running the show. Jenna O'Malley Dillon, notorious loser from 2024 cycle. Are we gonna have to cut that? Campaign manager for Biden and then Harris. and notorious Pod Save America guest.
Yep.
Was the ED of the DNC, right?
Yeah.
It's like you become the most powerful Democratic operative in the country. And I think we do ourselves a disservice if we don't use that chair role as a public-facing, attention-grabbing, attention-holding occupation.
I like that. I like the idea. We need to be a little provocative.
100%.
And we need to go on the offense. And you're right. I mean, as much as I love all of these, and we'll see, we're going to interview them all, which is going to be great.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll be surprised.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally. Maybe
people will come out with
swinging.
with some hot takes and willing to mix it up, willing to drive news cycles.
It is weird that there's no, to my knowledge, people of color or women.
Well, it also doesn't surprise me because, one, white men are very good at thinking that they're qualified for things and running. Let's just be real. The one great thing that white men are, you can count on that.
Yeah. Real lack of imposter syndrome.
Yes.
But it's also kind of a shit time to be chair. It's hard to come out of it on top.
I was going to say the second part was the sort of autopsy and the recriminations about the party being too woke or, this, that, and the other. The people that are running are people who have really been doing the job in their states already.
Yeah.
So it's like, look, for someone like a Wickler, look, I've been doing this shit. Wisconsin did a really good job. Let me take what I've learned in Wisconsin. Same for Minnesota with Ken. Let me take what I've learned here, scale it out. I know how to do this job.
Yeah.
Right? And so, but you're right. I mean, I would love to see some more firebrands.
Right.
And some people who are more media focused and media first. There are also some vice chairs who've announced. Our friend Shasti announced that she's running for vice chair.
Oh, okay.
Vice chair of the DNC. I didn't realize that there's like two separate
tracks.
I always
it's
assumed.
Not like a president vice. It's not like a running mate situation.
That's what I literally thought.
Yeah.
Because Blake was vice chair.
Yeah.
But that's like another campaign. So our friend Shasti, who we love, who we used to work with.
Rep Shasti. All right.
Just announced that she's running for vice chair. So yeah, we'll see some friends. We'll see some people get out there. But if you guys at home listening have any questions or thoughts, because the other part too, and we're thinking of having a friend from the DNC on.
Oh yeah, what's going on with that? Is he coming?
He's not getting into town till
well,
Wednesday.
now if I'm staying till Wednesday.
You're staying till Wednesday, maybe.
He arrives on. We can talk about this later.
The second question I want to ask a lot of these folks, like the first part is, to your point, the autopsy, what went wrong. The second part I really should be, what do you think the Democratic Party, for most Americans, like what do you think it stands for?
Yeah.
Because I think that's another huge piece of all of this.
Like what is the what is the brand of the Democratic Party in your mind? Mm-hmm. And what is the brand of the Democratic Party in the rest of the country's mind?
The American people's minds. The base, of course, but then also just most people. What do they think about the Democratic Party?
Yeah.
And then, from where your vision of it is and to where we're at, that delta, like where how do
tricky. How to close that gap.
How do we close that gap?
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. A lot of these DNC chair candidates are not people who have real experience or history or maybe even skill set to work on that.
Yeah.
So maybe there needs to be.
Which again, I can be convinced that not that my opinion's the most important, but again, they don't have to be an expert so long as they have a context, willingness to deputize someone and empower that person to go and do the things that need to be done. That person or that group of people, or allocate that budget, or what. All those things probably. It needs to be like one person who's actually in charge internally, an assembled group externally that helps out, and a meaningful budget to actually do all of that work. So long as they are clear-eyed and willing to do that, I think that's fine if it's not their strength.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say is, because I feel like we have to let's gamify our pod. I feel like we interview all the candidates.
Okay.
And then for those of you who watched the NCAA football selection ceremony that happened this weekend, we should have a selection ceremony where we give our endorsement, the Twigg and Jenkins. What do you think?
Hey, all right.
We do. Let's enter into the arena.
All right.
We give our endorsement, but then we literally rank them, however many are running. We can even have a graphic coming in at number 6.
I'm with it. Tell Peter. Put him on notice.
Pros and cons. We have a little graphic. Number 6 is this person. Number 5, 4, 3. And then we announce who are.
God, you've been desperate to turn this into a sports podcast.
I have
the entire time.
It's happening.
It's finally here.
It's happening.
Okay, can we talk about then our undrafted picks?
Oh yeah, people that we want to run.
I want, as I've said multiple times, Jasmine Crockett.
I love the idea of Jasmine Crockett. We should have her on, and you should convince her to run for DNC chair.
Okay.
For real.
Watch me. I've been trying to incept this. I saw Van Jones. I've seen people, and I've just been like, what do you think about Jasmine? And people are like, has she expressed interest? No, she's not.
I haven't spoken to her yet.
But maybe if you say it on CNN, she will. I don't know.
I love the idea of Jasmine. I think that she's already, here's the other part though too. She's already doing it without the title, True. So
all the more give her some support.
Yeah.
The thing that is helpful is the chair. If you're the chair of the DNC, you get all the sort of institutional support of the, you're going to be able to know every event in the country, everyone, every television booker, podcast booker, they're going to she'll be top of mind.
I really like that. I've got one for you that, is provocative.
Okay.
And I don't know that people are going to like it, because I think you and I have been talking about the changing of the guard and all that stuff. He goes by the name of Bernie Sanders.
Okay, here's the thing.
What if walk through it.
All right.
What if Bernie Sanders sends out a tweet on today's Monday, tomorrow, Tuesday, I'm running for the DNC chair? How exciting that would be for the Democratic Party. It would, people would get excited. There would be a lot of teeth gnashing. There would be a lot of dissension. I think a lot of people will lose their minds because a lot of people don't like Bernie Sanders, and he isn't even a fucking Democrat, which I kind of like. And I know he's very old, but I think that, to your point, having someone out there every single day, and if a huge part of what he's doing is building a stable of other speakers like Jasmine and others, and sort of shining a spotlight on those people, I think it could be hot.
Okay, here's the problem.
Okay. Tell me.
The most obvious problem is that the DNC chair is elected by about 480 Democratic Party insiders.
Yes.
It's not a popular election.
Yes.
Bernie Sanders likely cannot get elected as DNC chair.
You don't think he could win?
And so, no, because of who the voting pool is. Because the voting pool is tried and true, blue, dyed-in-the-wool Democrats who are like, this man does not caucus with us. This man defeated Hillary Clinton or whatever, came close, undermined. And I think if he announced that he were running, and then he lost, all the people who would be, to your point, rightly and so excited would be
really disappointed.
See?
Yeah.
These Democrats are the worst. They are the worst
What if,
again.
Yeah, no, you're a good point. If he loses, that would be catastrophic.
Right. And he would.
And you think he would lose. But could he not?
Likely.
How many? You said it's 480. It's a governing body of 400 or so people.
So it's the state chairs and the state vice chairs.
Yeah.
It is a handful of representatives from the state infrastructure that the state party picks, I think.
Right.
And then it's also
like the super delegate, like the DC people.
Yeah. Like organizations, representatives from democratically affiliated organizations.
I think if Bernie were to pull together a team, a real team, and they literally did retail politics every single day and got to those 480 people and truly like made the case, I think he can do. I mean, I don't think this is going to happen. We're creating a fantasy scenario here. The other person that I think would be provocative, to your point, because I knew you were going to say this, that Bernie couldn't win, is Elizabeth Warren.
Interesting.
Someone who...
That, I think, is a much more viable... And you get all the Bernie...
You get
all the Bernie policy.
And I think that for those folks out there, like a Hassan Piker and others who say that the real reason why Democrats have lost their way is we've lost the focus on policy. And that's what Elizabeth Warren has in spades. She's very good at explaining policies to everyday people. And there's still, I mean, again, the number of times in this town that I see a Subaru with an Elizabeth Warren bumper sticker.
Listen.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
listen. I think that's a great point. I also think both of them are in their late 70s.
Yeah, but I think it's sort of how we felt about Joe.
You mean intellectually a new generation, not
it's
necessarily.
How we felt about Joe Biden, which was, you know, in this moment, America just needs someone. We need a stable hand, right? To get us back to a level of normalcy.
I don't think that's what the DNC needs, though. I think the DNC needs someone a little reckless.
Well, I think Bernie would be
reckless.
I think
he would absolutely.
Bernie would be reckless.
Yeah.
Bernie would be the choice. But I'm saying Elizabeth Warren. I'm just going to throw it out there to her because she's getting up there in age, but she is beloved within the party.
She is. And I think you're right. She gets you all the sort of policy chop and sort of perspective, like the POV.
Yes.
The hyper focus on working class without substituting or sacrificing sort of the marginalized people that we have been working so hard to bring into the fold and to protect. And she is considered a stalwart of the party.
She also cut her teeth being... her whole jam with the CFPB, but prior to the CFPB even forming, was she was a consumer protection activist advocate, right?
It's a fun contrast if they get rid of the CFPB.
Exactly. And that's what we need.
Yeah.
Donald Trump, we need someone protecting the people.
Right.
That is like her. Ooh, if you were looking up her sports stats.
Yeah.
That is her stat.
Yeah.
She's really good at that. She's really good at protecting the people and fighting for the people and litigating for the people. I think she'd be fucking great. But to your point, I think we don't have to put all of our eggs in this DNC chair basket.
Sure.
I think we have to be creative about the storytelling beyond just who the DNC chair is.
Right.
And so...
Which, again, I think is one of the roles of the DNC chair. Is like, how are you... And a question we should ask them, which is, how are you going to maximize the fact that the Democrats actually have a phenomenally deep bench of incredibly talented and smart and charismatic governors, senators, former presidents, former candidates for president? Like, how are you going to... build a meaning, like put those people to use over the course of the next 4 years.
Great point.
To do that work of drawing the contrast between the Trump administration and advocating for the alternative vision of what Democrats offer in lieu of all the ways that we're going to, like all the savagery that we're going to see come out. Okay, I have another suggestion that's not mine, came from Brady.
Okay. God bless Brady.
God bless Brady. Chris Murphy.
I like Senator Murphy. Another white guy.
Yeah.
Would we call him?
Really?
White Woody? Some.
Where is this headed?
We're using our wine. Metaphors.
Woody Okie. Okie white.
I feel like Summer is an Okie white.
Connecticut Okie white.
Okie white, you know?
All right. Okay.
Floral.
Yeah, great on unions, great on
unions, yeah. Great on gun violence, I believe.
Great on gun violence. Younger.
He's also been a little provocative on Twitter lately.
Yeah.
He's been mixing
got
it
some
up.
Spice. Maybe he's a spiced oak.
Spicy oak. I can't wait for our Peter's going to work on our graphics. Each of these guys, we're going to put together a little spicy oak, you know?
Yeah, great.
I don't know. I wish I was more of a winophile and I had more metaphors for you.
I know. I got you covered. Don't worry about it.
Senator Murphy's good.
Who else? It's actually really hard to come up with people. Because I ask people and I'm not getting very many. I've heard AOC a lot, but everyone's like, A, she's not gonna do it, and B, we need her for other stuff.
She's running for oversight committee, which is huge. Pete's been coming up a lot. Our guy,
he ran for chair in 2016.
He ran and lost way back when, but I think we all know he's a gifted communicator. No longer transportation secretary, obviously. Rumors of him, he's moved to Michigan.
Yeah,
so
him and Chase?
Chaston,
great.
Rumors of Pete gearing up to run in Michigan.
Is Gretchen termed? Is Governor Whitmer, she's my friend, is Governor Whitmer...
Big Gretch?
Yeah.
I don't think she's going to run. She's still the governor, no?
No, I know. I'm asking, is she termed out? Is Pete going to run for governor in Michigan? Is that what the play is?
No, I think the play, good question. I don't know. I don't know what his trajectory looks like. But if you guys at home have any ideas, the other thing I was thinking is could there be someone who is just random?
Yeah,
like Mark Cuban.
Why would he want to be DNC chair?
I mean, because why does Elon Musk want to run Doji? It's proximity to power. People want to be going tit for tat with Donald Trump.
So much more powerful than the DNC chair. You know what I mean?
No.
I think it would actually be...
You think it's too beneath him to do it?
Well, I think there's no power the DNC chair has that Mark Cuban doesn't already have anyway.
But he just gets to go on podcasts like this and say he's the DNC chair every day.
But he could do that now. If he wanted to come on this podcast and call himself the DNC chair, I'd be like, yeah, come on, Mark.
Get the fuck out of here, Mark Cuban. Absolutely not.
Talk about
Magic
how he
Johnson. What if we got like a just someone, business person, entertainment?
Who?
Magic Johnson.
Oh. What the fuck did Magic Johnson want to be DNC chair?
He lives in DC. Just bought the Redskins, Commanders.
Excuse me.
They're thinking of changing the name back.
Yeah, of course they are. Does Dan Snyder still? No, he bought it from Dan. Magic Johnson is not changing the name back to the Redskins.
Well, they're definitely considering going back to the old logo. So that's already been confirmed, which is the Indian head.
Okay.
So.
Magic. Come on, Magic.
God bless.
All right, fine. All right, who else?
I don't know. If you guys have good ideas. I think you're right. We got to make it. If you had to base off of who has announced today, who do you think's going to win? Let's go. We're turning this podcast into a sports podcast, whether you like it.
I know, clearly. I'm just getting dragged into sports.
Who do you think's going to win?
I think so. One of the super fun things about this podcast is that I now get so much more gossip that I never used to get. So I had a bunch of people texting me from the ASDC meeting, which is the Association of State Democratic Party Chairs, which make up, I think, the biggest voting block of the DNC race. So the state chairs and the vice chairs were all together in Scottsdale, Arizona last week or earlier this week. And there was a lot of campaigning. Martin O'Malley was there. Ken was there. Ben was there. And so based on that informal straw poll, I think Ken. I think Ken's in the lead.
Whoa.
That's what I heard.
You hear it here first. You're like the Stephen A. Smith. You're like Woj. You're dropping Woj bombs over there. Wow. Ken, I don't know anything about Ken Martin, so I'm excited to have him on the pod. Know nothing about him.
Yeah.
Exciting. Why do we think Ken was resonating? Did they say why?
Well, I think he's just been in the mix for so long.
Yeah.
Ben Wickler has obviously been a very successful chair over the course of the last several years in Wisconsin, but Ken's been in the mix for way longer.
Yeah.
And I think, this is why I say that people like Bernie Sanders would have a hard time winning, is because this is such an this is the insider of the insider of the insider.
Yeah.
Like, this is the smoky back room that's in the smoky back room.
Yeah.
And so it is so relationship driven. It is so about like the depth of relationship you have with people, how long you've worked for them, and then how well you know them, so that if they do win, you get to call for favors.
Of course.
Right? And that's in the state Democratic DNC chair context. That's the best hotels at the convention.
Yes.
That's plum sort of assignments on the rule committee and the platform committee and stuff like that. It's invitations to the White House. Not that those are coming for a while. I was at the White House yesterday for the last time in
the holiday
4
decorations
years.
are
Spectacular.
Incredible. This is the 1%er part of the podcast, but they
crushed it this year.
The decorations are I think the best.
That's what I said. So the first person I saw when I walked in was Carlos, the social secretary. And I was like, Carlos, it is beautiful in here. It's maybe the most beautiful I've ever seen the White House at the holidays.
The best. I think they put real money too into it, because they had the screens. And
looks amazing. And he was like, it almost turned me into like a Christmas girly. Like, I was almost like, am I a holiday girly now? But he was like, everyone says that every time they walk in, because you just haven't seen it for a year. And I was like, no. I think these are really legit. Like,
it was really good.
They're so good.
They also had staged rooms. Well, one, you could go in every room, which is rare, because typically they'll have the because
you were there for a holiday party. Right?
I just brought my kids to the tour.
To the
this past
holiday
week.
tour. Okay.
The parties start next week. I was at the Kamala party.
That's right.
But it's beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Really beautiful. I was so blown away. But yeah, DNC chair, you're right. Like, some of the job deliverables are like tickets to stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the attention of the Barack Obamas of the world, the attention of whoever's raising the cash and who's ever like hosting the starry events and whoever is doing all that stuff. All that sort of largesse, especially in off years where there's not going to be much of it.
Yeah.
Is going to be interesting. And then also, who's committing to spending real money in states.
Yep.
So how many people are when I first worked for the Ohio Democratic Party, I think half of my salary was paid by the DNC.
Yep.
So the DNC committed to paying a certain amount of cash to the state party. And this is when Ohio was like the battleground of battleground states. And then the state party made up the difference. But so it allowed us to have an infrastructure. It was like the post Howard Dean 50 state solution, or 50 state strategy. And those things that's like night or day. That's the difference between making and breaking these state parties and some of these state races around apportionment and all sorts of stuff. So that's what people, and Ken knows that, and Ken's been through the boom and bust of the DNC,
right? And
has this really deep bench of relationships with people across the country. And so I think that at least makes him probably the front runner in this moment, whether or not other people will be able to campaign and siphon off other votes, from what I understand.
We do need someone, as much as I like to be provocative and say we need to shake it up, we also need someone who knows what the fuck they're doing and who understands the history of this party over multiple decades, and also understands when things were going really well, how are things organized?
Why? Yeah. Why was it working?
You know what I mean? Yeah. Or why was it working, or why was it not working? We don't have time to reinvent the wheel. We have time to like think big, but it should come from a place of like, oh no, we tried that shit and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Or we tried that shit and part of it worked.
Yeah.
And part of it didn't work, and here's the reason why it will. I mean, the 50 state strategy, maybe we'll end here, or else we'll keep talking forever. I don't know how much time we've been going for. I fucking love this. But like, I'm curious how much that has been talked about, right? Like,
Oh,
did
I
that
think it's
come
like
up?
number
Is that
one.
number one? Okay, great.
I think it's like number one for the people who are in the states.
Yeah.
Right? At the ASDC level. The people
That's what
who
they
are
want.
That's what they want.
Yeah.
It's the difference makers. Like this idea that we are going to pour billions of dollars into 7 states.
Right.
But then somehow be able to win the Senate, be able to
Right.
win gubernatorials, be able to create a bench, be able to keep the House, be able to hold the line on so many of the redistricting issues that are happening, state abortion bans and travel bans that are happening. Like there's so much work that has to be done in the states, and everybody on the state parties are on the front line of that. And so that is going to be their number one demand, is like, how much budget are you actually moving out of DC and into states? And one of the things that I would actually say, again, back to my point around thinking that the chair should be more of a figurehead, and the ED, we should prize the role of the ED a little bit more. And I would love to see someone who is a really successful state party chair in that role.
Yeah.
Is also sort of breaking the consultant class.
Yes.
So often the
Please.
ED ends up being someone from DC who
just hires all the same people.
doesn't have a ton of state-based
Yeah.
experience.
Yep.
And is like kind of captured. And so I would love, so that's another question I would have for these incoming chairs, is like, how are you going to shake up the way that money is moving, not just to the states, but the kind of closed loop of consultants, of TV ads, of all of this, because the math isn't mathing.
The money is a huge part, but the other part, the 50-state strategy, even beyond, because I think that a lot of the pushback, and we should have someone from the DNC on to talk through it. So we'll work on that. But, a lot of the pushback is just like, well, we don't have unlimited resources, so we can't do a 50-state strategy, right? And I sort of understand that and get that and know where these battleground states are and yada, yada, yada. And you have to line it up with the cycle. But I also think as a storytelling tool, saying that you're doing a 50-state strategy just opens up the aperture for the American people.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that we are missing, right? Like, if you're talking about using sports as a metaphor, like the battleground state, like the reason why I think the campaign, people were so tired of the campaign, the people that were living in these battleground states were deluged with ads, but then the people who weren't living in these battleground states, and they were just
Crickets.
like, yeah. And they're just like looking into a game that they are not playing.
Yeah.
No one is trying to reach them. No one is investing in them. And I think a reason why a lot of these Democratic strongholds like New Jersey and California and New York went so the other way is because they do not feel and have been touched at all.
I know,
by
because we're
the
not
Democratic
using
Party.
culture, and then
Exactly.
all the organizing goes to 7 states. It is
Yes.
so damning
Yes.
that we lost vote share in
Yes.
New York, New Jersey. So many places. Like, it is inexcusable.
I'm from New Jersey. The final results in New Jersey was closer than Arizona.
I mean,
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And one of the things, like the 50-state strategy from a storytelling perspective, like you and I think this is something we should probably even just start doing. Like, there should already be some inventory or audits of like, what are the dope stories in every single state?
yeah.
Who is that young state Democratic operative in fucking Wyoming?
Yeah.
What's her story?
Yeah.
What's it like? What is it like to run the state Democratic Party in Wyoming?
Yeah.
I want to know. In Kansas, in Kentucky, in all of these places. And because I think that it also counters and changes that idea that the American public has that Democrats are elite, coastal. We're not. Like, Democrats are everywhere.
Yeah.
We really are. But we don't tell that story of, I keep bringing up, I fucking love Wyoming, by the way. If you've never been to Wyoming,
Gorgeous.
it's so gorgeous. I just want to, Culture House and Enfranchisement, we're going to go to Wyoming. We're going to go to Laramie. We're going to go to my favorite bar called Altitude in Laramie, Wyoming.
Okay.
And we're going to talk to some college kids out there, and we're going to figure out, like, what does the Democratic Party look like
Yeah.
in a state like Wyoming.
Yeah.
I think it'd be dope.
Say less.
Let's go.
I need no prodding to go anywhere in the American West.
All right, Twig, we did it. We're gonna be back. We're recording a number of pods. We're gonna be back tomorrow, although
you guys don't know that.
You guys don't know that, but we will be back tomorrow to have our first in-person, in-studio interview with one of the DNC Chair candidates. And then
we're doing the rest remote, I think.
I think we're going to do a lot of these interviews remote.
Yeah.
But it's good to see you, man.
Good to see you. Let's get it.
Anything else? Oh,
no.
You set up an email address. Housekeeping.
Twigg and Jenkins podcast at gmail.com. Send us gossip. Invite us to parties. We'll invite you to parties.
Yeah. Send us ideas.
Send us ideas, feedback, comments.
Guest ideas. We're thinking of guests.
Yeah.
Although we hate having guests because we like to hear ourselves talk.
To yap.
But thank you guys. What was that again? Twigg and Jenkins
podcast at gmail.com. Twigg and Jenkins podcast at gmail.com.
We did it. Peace.
Bye.